Hey, what's going on, YouTubers? This is Blight back with another video, and today for you I have a deck profile on Cyber Dragons. If you watched Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, then you probably know what the Cyber Dragons are. They're one of the more iconic archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I just love them ever since I saw them as a kid up to this day, and they did get a lot of support over the years, so this deck that I currently run now is probably the best they can do at the moment. They're not a top tier deck, but they're definitely not something to laugh at, and they can give you a nasty surprise if you're not careful. So yeah, let's begin with the star card of this deck, Cyber Dragon. Of course, we run 3 copies since it's basically the most important monster in the deck. Now, you probably know what his effect is, but in case you don't, I'll just say it. He's a level 5 light machine type monster. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. Now, at some point, this card was limited to 1 because it was considered to be too powerful, just dropping a 2100 beat stick on the field. So yeah, you can see how the Yu-Gi-Oh! Metagame evolved if in the past that was considered to be like overpowered. Cyber Dragon is also the first card, actually the first card that I know of that has the built-in special summon effect. The one that says if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters. I know there's a lot of cards now that have the same effect, but this is the original right there. So what this guy does is he's a level 5. You can go into rank 5s, and you'll see later on they had their own little Xyz monster now. And you can also do what Cyber Dragons do best, and that is fusion. All their fusions require Cyber Dragon as the material, so naturally you have to run 3. So yeah, not much else to say about Cyber Dragon, so let's move on to the next monster, and that is Cyber Dragon Drei. Drei means 3 in German, so yeah, that's his name. There's also a Cyber Dragon Zwei, that means 2, but I don't run that one sucks. Okay, so what does this guy do? He's a level 4 machine type monster. When he's on the field or in the graveyard, his name is treated as Cyber Dragon, so this is really important because its name being treated as Cyber Dragon means you can use him for fusions, and you can also use him to activate their searching spell, which is Cyber Repair Plant. So yeah, this guy has 1800 attack points, which is pretty decent for a level 4 monster, and it has a decent effect. When he's normal summoned, you can make all Cyber Dragon monsters you control become level 5. But if you use this effect, until the end of this turn, you can only special summon machine type monsters. So what this basically means is if you have Cyber Dragon and you normal summon Cyber Dragon Drei, he can become a level 5 monster, and you can go into a rank 5 XYZ. But the restriction is you can only go into machine type XYZs, and that basically limits you to Cyber Dragon Nova, which is their XYZ monster, and Wind Up Arsenal Zenmaioh, which is a pretty decent card, and I'll talk more about them later when we get to the extra deck. Or you can, if you feel like it, you can leave them, the level 5 effect stays. So once your turn is over, if they hypothetically survive one turn of your opponent, then you can go into any level, any rank 5 monsters using them, because they remain level 5. So keep that in mind for some interesting combos, but you'll mostly be using it to go into their XYZ monster. And next up we have Cyber Dragon Core. This is what Cyber Dragon looks like underneath all that armor. So yeah, this is his core. This is what he's made of. This is a level 2 machine type monster, which only has 400 attack and 1500 defense. It's kind of weak, you'd think, but its real power lies in its effect. When it's normal summoned, it searches out any cybernetic or cyber spell trap. But basically the only spell I run in this deck is the one that searches them out. That is Cyber Repair Plant. We'll get to that a bit later. Also, this guy's name is treated as Cyber Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. So that's very important. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can banish this Cyber Dragon Core from your graveyard to special summon a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. Now when I say monster, I mean you can special summon him, you can special summon Cyber Dragon Drei or Cyber Dragon, whichever you prefer, but mostly you'll be special summoning Cyber Dragon if it comes to that. And last but not least, I should mention, because his name is treated as Cyber Dragon while on the field, and he only has 400 attack points, he becomes a target for the infamous Machine Duplication card. And this is how it works. If you use Machine Duplication on Cyber Dragon Core, its name is treated as Cyber Dragon. The other two monsters that get special summoned are actual Cyber Dragons and not Cyber Dragon Cores. So, despite Machine Duplication requiring your machine monster to have 500 or less attacks, Cyber Dragon Core manages to cheat his way out of that restriction, and that is what makes it good. This card really gets things going in this deck, and it's really necessary. It's a necessary combo piece for many of the strategies this deck uses. And next we have Cyber Vally. Now this is a card that's used to defend yourself and to gain some draw power. Because this deck really needs draw power, you need to draw your combo pieces and go for the OTK, and this is what's going to help you out. Cyber Vally is a level 1 machine type monster. It has 0 attack and 0 defense. Unfortunately, its name is not treated as a Cyber Dragon, so forget about that. It has 3 effects, but out of those 3 effects, only the first 2 are useful. The first effect is, if this card is targeted for an attack, you can banish it, draw 1 card, and end the battle phase. So basically you can just put this on the field and you should be safe for 1 turn. And you also get some draw power along the way. The second effect, and the more interesting one, is you can banish this card and 1 other monster you control to draw 2 cards. Now, maybe I should get into some technical details. If you're using the second effect, you don't have to be afraid of Veiler, because banishing is not a cost. So you would say, I'm activating the second effect, I target this guy and this monster. If they Veiler you, you still get to keep your monsters. You don't banish them for nothing. So yeah, if you're going to use the maximum draw power effect, you shouldn't be too scared of Veiler, because even if it does get negated, you will still have your Cyber Vally on the field. It has 0 attack and 0 defense, which naturally means it's an ideal target for Machine Duplication. And this is what you want to draw on your first turn if you're going first. Cyber Vally plus Machine Duplication. That is just ideal, because that means not only will you be safe from your opponent's attacks for 1 turn, you will also get to draw 2 more cards on the first turn, which is just amazing. So Cyber Vally really enjoys being targeted by Machine Duplication. And the last Cyber Dragon-ish monster is Cyber Eltanin. He's a level 10 light machine type monster with a very interesting effect. It has you banish all light machine type monsters from the field or the graveyard to special summon him. His original attack and defense are equal to the number of monsters banished to special summon him times 500, but that isn't really important. The important thing is, when he is special summoned this way, he sends all other monsters on the field to the graveyard. And I say send, it's not destroy. So this is what's going to help you against stuff like Noble Knights, Winda, stuff like that. The monsters that you normally cannot destroy easily, this guy just sends them straight to the graveyard. But it's kind of cost heavy, since you really don't want to banish all of your Cyber Dragons from the graveyard. They're necessary to be able to use their searching spells. So yeah, I would mostly search this out with the spell and use it to banish like 1 or 2, just so I can clear the board of my enemy's monsters. And but if it's late game and you manage to top deck this, it's not bad if you have like 6 or 7 light machine type monsters in the graveyard, and then Cyber Eltanin actually becomes a decent beat stick. It's an interesting card, not something you'll be using every duel, but it's nice to have. And now for the non-Cyber Dragon monsters, I run 1 Chronomaly Golden Jet. Now you may be wondering what the hell is this, but it's a pretty interesting card. It's a level 4 light machine type monster, which means it can also be searched out by their spell Cyber Repair Plant. And its effect is the following: once per turn, you can increase the level of all Chronomaly monsters you control by 1. So you can make this a level 5 light machine type monster. Now why is this good, you ask? Well, let's say you have Chronomaly Golden Jet and Cyber Dragon in your hand. Let me just get the, yeah, Cyber Dragon in your hand. Your opponent has a monster. You special summon Cyber Dragon, normal summon Chronomaly Golden Jet, change it to level 5, and then you can go into any rank 5 XYZ monster, including the infamous Constellar Pleiades. And that is what you'll mostly be using this guy. Because remember when I said Cyber Dragon Drei, if you use his effect, you can only special summon machine type monsters. Chronomaly Golden Jet has no such restrictions, so you'll be using this one to go into your other rank 5 monsters. And that is basically what its purpose is. Also, being able to search it out is a nice bonus. And next we have one Honest. Now, I know Honest is at 2 right now, and you can run 2 if you want, but I just didn't have enough space to fit him in. And I kind of don't like using 2 Honest because with this deck, you're going for OTKs. You're already going to have a lot of attack points just by using Limiter Removal or Power Bond. So the Honest doesn't really do too much, and it's level 4. You're unable to make it level 5, so it's kind of dead most of the time. But it's nice to have if you have like Cyber Dragon Core and you have Honest in your hand. You can normal summon this, search out their spell card, and then you'll still be safe because if they attack you, you can just use Honest. So yeah, I mostly use Honest to protect Cyber Dragon Core. Sometimes you'll use him to boost Cyber Twin Dragon's attack to finish up those OTKs, but yeah, for me, 1 Honest is enough. If you feel like you need to use 2, feel free to do so. And that is it for the monsters. Now let's move on to the spells and traps. One of the most important spells in this deck is Cyber Repair Plant. I've been mentioning it quite a few times during this video, and here it is. You absolutely must run 3 because it's very important. This is how it works. You can only activate it if you have a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard. Now, like I said, Cyber Dragon Core and Cyber Dragon Drei's names are treated as Cyber Dragon while in the graveyard, so they can be used to activate Cyber Repair Plant. What this does, it has 2 effects. The first effect is the one you'll mostly be using. Add 1 light machine type monster from your deck to your hand, or target 1 light machine type monster in your graveyard, shuffle that target into your deck. If you had 3 or more Cyber Dragons, you can activate both of these effects and resolve them in sequence. Now, that's not something you'll be doing a lot, but late game, you can just shuffle Cyber Dragon back into the graveyard and search him out. Well, I should mention this card is once per turn only, so you cannot activate multiple Cyber Repair Plans, because that would be kind of overpowered, and we don't want that, do we? So yeah, Cyber Repair Plant, it is your main searching card. Very cool card and a very nice addition to the Cyber Dragon archetype. Now moving on. The second most important card, maybe the most important in some people's opinion, Power Bond. If you watch GX, then you remember Zane and Cyrus using this card. What this does is it fusion summons a machine type monster just like what you would do with polymerization, except its original attack is doubled, but during the end phase you take damage to your life points equal to the original attack of the machine type monster you fusion summoned. Now let's say you fusion summon Cyber Twin Dragon. It has 2,800 attack points. Those 2,800 attack points becomes 5,600 attack points, which is just insane, and it can attack twice, and that's how you end most games with that OTK. During the end phase, beware though, because you will take 2,800 points of damage. So when using Power Bond, be sure to keep your life points in mind. Do not try to use it if you have under 3,000 life points, because that would just be suicide if you're unable to do the OTK. Yeah, so I run 3 copies because you really want to draw this. You don't want to draw 2 of them, but 1 is just perfect. So if you draw 1 on the first turn, you're good to go. So yeah, moving on. We have 2 instant fusions. Now, why would we run this? This is because there's an interesting addition from Duelist Alliance. It's a light type machine fusion monster called Panzer Dragon. It's a level 5, so you can summon him with instant fusion. And basically why you do this is to support your XYZ summons. Just like the Chronomaly Golden Jet, if you use Cyber Dragon and Panzer Dragon, you can go into any rank 5 XYZ monster. Also, Panzer Dragon also has a secondary effect. If it's destroyed, it pops a card on the field if you want. It's an optional effect. So if push comes to shove, you can use Instant Fusion and Panzer Dragon to destroy one card on the field. Although it will cost you 1,000 life points, but it can save you in some situations, such as if your opponent is running a skill drain or something like that. So yeah, Instant Fusion, I run 2 copies, 2 is just enough, 3 would be too much. Moving on, 2 machine duplications. Like I mentioned, this is what we use to swarm the field with Cyber Valleys and Cyber Dragons from targeting Cyber Dragon Core. 2 is enough, you don't really need 3, and you do not want to draw this after you've already used it once, because it's just awkward, and most of the time, if you draw it later, it ends up being dead in the hand because you have either no targets or too few targets to make this worthwhile. So yeah, next I play 3 Upstart Goblin. Now, since this is an OTK deck, you do need the the speed, and this card is what gives you more speed in this deck. It gives your opponent 1,000 life points, but really in this deck it doesn't matter at all, because you'll be dealing huge amounts of damage with your fusion monsters, and the extra 1,000 life points is not going to save them, at least not with this deck. So yeah, 3 Upstart Goblin. Next is a card that's a must for all machine type decks, Limited Removal. What this does is it basically doubles the attack of all of your machine type monsters, but they're destroyed during the end phase. So I should mention a ruling change in this card, or an errata, or whatever it's called. If your machine type monster survives being destroyed by Limited Removal in some way, it does not retain the boosted attacks. So in the past, if you would somehow save a card, machine type monster, from being destroyed with something like Heavy Mech Support Platform or Machina Gear Frame, whatever it's called, it would retain the attack boost, but it doesn't anymore. So this just lasts 1 turn, but sometimes that's all you need. It's also a quick play spell card, so you can set it and have your opponent crash into one of your monsters, but I don't recommend doing that. This is, when you use this, you're going for game, and your opponent's field is wide open, and you know you want to finish things up. So yeah, it's limited to 1, but for good reason. Can you imagine how overpowered machine decks would be if they had this on 3? Next, Maximum Hatred of Back Rows, triple MST, self-explanatory. You don't want back row, you really hate back row in this deck, so this is there to help you get rid of it. Next we have some added protection in the form of 2 Forbidden Lands. Now, I like running 2 lands because it helps me avoid some nasty traps such as Bottomless, Compulsory, Torrential Tribute and stuff. But if you're looking for stuff to tech out or swap in the deck, you can swap out the 2 Forbidden Lands, because it's not something that most people play. You can swap them out for the second Honest or something you like, but for me, I just enjoy having a lance in the hand, because then I know I can go for my OTKs more easily. And when you fusion summon Cyber Twin Dragon using Power Bond, you're really not gonna care for the 800 attack drop, because you'd still be at 4,800 attack points, and you would be able to attack twice. So that's still pretty enough to finish things up, so you really don't care about the attack drop too much. Also, it has the added function of being a quick play spell card, so if your opponent attacks one of your monsters and you really want them to survive, you can target them with the Forbidden Lance and have them lose 800 attack points, potentially crashing themselves into your Cyber Dragon Drei or whatever you have on the field. Next, some more back row hatred, Trap Stun. Now, with stuff like Burning Abyss and Shadows and other back row heavy decks, triple Trap Stun is a must if you want to play Cyber Dragons, because when you activate Trap Stun, you know you're going for game, and you don't have to worry about those trap cards. So yeah, I run 3. 3 is just the perfect number for me. I enjoy drawing this. It's never really dead, because in this deck you really enjoy all the protection you can get, since Cyber Dragons can be considered sort of a glass cannon deck. And last but not least, we have some of the staple traps, which is Compulsory Evacuation Device, Torrential Tribute, and Bottomless Trap Hole. And I'm not going to talk about those too much, but you know what they do. Compulse bounces your opponent's monsters. It's ideal for getting rid of any extra deck monsters. Torrential Tribute blows up all the monsters on the field, and Bottomless sends any summoned monster that has 1500 or more attack points into the banished zone. So yeah. That is it for the main deck, and now let's take a look at the extra deck. The most important extra deck monster, Cyber Twin Dragon. It's a fusion monster. It requires 2 Cyber Dragons. It has 2800 attack points, and it can attack twice during each battle phase. So if you have multiple battle phases in one turn, it can attack 4 times. So yeah. Here's a fun fact. I actually looked up the multiple battle phase thing, and there's literally only one way you can get 2 battle phases in one turn. And that is if your opponent has Swords of Revealing Light, and you have the monster called Weather Control or Weather Report or something like that. It destroys Swords of Revealing Light and gives you 2 battle phases in this turn. So yeah, that's the only way to get 2 battle phases. And there's a lot of cards that say during each battle phase, and I was like, wow, can you have multiple battle phases? And it turns out you can't. So with the little trivia out of the day, this is the main card you'll be using for your OTKs, and it is just a beast because after you summon it with Power Bond, it has 5600 attack points. It can attack twice, and it just destroys everything. So yeah, Cyber Twin Dragon, and I love the artwork. It's just amazing. I'm glad they reprinted this in ultra rare because it's just wow. Next we have their newer XYZ monster, which is called, their only XYZ monster, Cyber Dragon Nova. It's not as useful as Cyber Twin Dragon, but still good. It's a rank 5 light machine type monster. It has 2100 attack points and it has a lot of effects. So let's start off with the more important ones. You can detach 1 XYZ material to special summon a Cyber Dragon from your graveyard. Now, like most cards, to activate this effect, you need to have a target in the graveyard. You have to have a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard. But if you detach, you can then special summon the thing you just detached. So yeah, but if you do not have a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, you cannot activate this effect. Its second effect is you can banish a Cyber Dragon from your field or from your hand. It's a quick effect. And this card gains 2100 attack points until the end phase of the turn. So it's like it has a built-in honest effect, but the cost is quite heavy because you do not want to banish your Cyber Dragon so recklessly. And last but not least, if this card is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon a machine type fusion monster from your deck, from your extra deck. That is something that's going to make your opponent think twice about using Torrential Tribute or stuff like that. And I actually checked out the ruling. If this gets if this card summon gets negated by Solemn Warning, you still get the effect. So it's kind of like Dante from the Burning Abyss. So if your opponent uses Solemn Warning, you get to special summon a fusion monster from your extra deck with this guy's effect. So Cyber Dragon Nova, it's something you're going to go into quite often. I wish it was a bit more useful, but still it's kind of nice, so yeah. Like I said, we have the option of special summoning stronger fusion type monster from the extra deck. So we have Cyber End Dragon and Barbaroid, the ultimate battle machine. Cyber End Dragon, you can special summon him with Power Bond, but it's not something we'll be doing too often. You would only do it if your opponent has something in defense like Marshmallow or Spirit Reaper and you really want to finish things up. But most of the time, you'll be summoning these two guys with the effect of Cyber Dragon Nova. So yeah, if Cyber Dragon Nova is sent to the graveyard by opponent's card effect, you can special summon any of these two. And why is this good? Because Barbaroid, on the other hand, has a pretty amazing effect. It has 4,000 attack points. It can attack twice, but it cannot attack directly. If it destroys an opponent's monster, your opponent loses 1,000 life points. Also, that monster's effect is negated, including in the graveyard. So, let's say you're fighting against something like Burning Abyss or Yang Xing. If this guy destroys their monster, they're not going to get their effects from the graveyard. So, yeah. It's not something that you're going to see too often, but it's nice to have that option if your Cyber Dragon Nova gets sent to the graveyard. But yeah, you'll mostly see that if your opponent does not know how Cyber Dragon Nova works. So smarter opponents will never let you use that effect. So yeah. Next up we have Panzer Dragon. Now, this is a cool card that came out in Duelist Alliance, and it's the one that you use to support your other rank 5 XYZ summons. You call him out by using instant fusion, because you cannot normally fusion summon it. It requires one machine type monster and one dragon type monster, and even if you could, why would you do it? It only has 1000 attack points. What this guy does is, if he's destroyed, he's gonna pop a card on the field. It's optional. So yeah, like I said, you can use instant fusion's destruction effect to send him to the graveyard and pop a card on the field if need be, but mostly it's there to support the XYZ summoning. Now, I've been mentioning the other XYZs in this deck, so let's introduce them. We have Wind Up Arsenal, Zenmaioh, a generic rank 5 machine type Exceed monster. With the effect, once per turn you can detach one XYZ material from this card to target 2 set cards on the field, destroy them. So this is pretty good for clearing out back row and getting rid of stuff like Raiko, I don't know, Shadow Falco, whatever it's set. Whatever monsters get set these days, I don't know. Next we have Volcasaurus, Brocasaurus. You all know what he does. Detach one XYZ material, target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, inflict damage equal to its attack. If you use this effect, Brocasaurus cannot attack your opponent directly, but it can still attack a monster. Or you can just use this guy, Gaia the Thunder Charger, to overlay over him, and then you can attack directly. It's a known combo from the days of hieratic dragons, so it's nothing new, but it's nice to have this little combo in Cyber Dragons as well. And the most infamous rank 5 monster of all time, Constellar Pleiades. Yes, you can actually make the Constellar Pleiades in this deck because he requires 2 level 5 light monsters. Now, the different ways you can make this card excuse me, are if you use Cyber Dragon Core and you special summon 2 more Cyber Dragons using Machine Duplication, you can use those 2 Cyber Dragons to go into Pleiades. You can also use a Cyber Dragon and Chronomaly Golden Jet, a Cyber Dragon and a instant fusion summoned Panzer Dragon. And last but not least, you can use Cyber Dragon and Cyber Dragon Drei, assuming they survive one turn on the field, because during the turn Cyber Dragon Drei uses its effect, you cannot special summon Pleiades, because Pleiades unfortunately is not a machine, he is a warrior. So yeah, Pleiades is a very disruptive card. If you can get him on the first turn, it can be very nasty for your opponent. So yeah, and that is it for the extra deck. Now I know there's only 13 monsters that I mentioned, and 2 more spots remain. But I'm gonna let you guys fill those spots up for yourself. You can put something like Exciton Knight, Silent Honor Arc. The one card I would love to have, but I don't, is Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. It's the one that you use to special summon from. You use your opponent's monsters. You use your opponent's machine type monsters and your Cyber Dragon to perform the contact fusion. So it's very nasty, and it's a very good option if your opponent is using something like Cleave Forts. You can just drop Cyber Dragon on the field and clear off their Apo Cleave Fort towers, or whatever its name is. Can you imagine the shock of your opponent when you just wipe off towers from the field, only to special summon your very own Chimeratech Fortress Dragon. I'm rambling on too much. So yeah, this has been Blight, and these have been Cyber Dragons. I hope you guys give this deck a try. It's really fun to use, and it's interesting. Kind of gives you that adrenaline rush when you're going for the OTK. And since it's a fun deck, and like all card games, the main thing is to have fun. So yeah, I know Cyber Dragons have a lot of fanboys, me being one of them, so I don't have any doubts that this deck will remain unused. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more stuff, deck profiles, Pokemon battles, whatnot, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.